Well, good afternoon. I'm Father David. Thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we are looking at Samuel and the sacred nudge. And, how often do we honestly ask the question, am I right about this viewpoint that I'm having, this action I'm taking, or this stance and firmness I've adopted about a certain thing or situation? Is it possible that the things we're so sure about or the way we're viewing things is wrong? What if we're so convinced of our own point of view that we not only miss God's view, but literally get so upset trying to maintain the status quo or our current belief that it takes God Himself to tell us we're wrong, and it takes God Himself to give us a sacred nudge to correct our course. That's what was actually going on in the readings from the Old Testament today. What do I mean by that? Well, we read in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1, the Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you grieve for Saul, whom I have rejected as king of Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem, for from among his sons I have decided on a king." Now, don't forget, the prophet Samuel was a Nazarene, a devout follower of the Lord God Adonai. He did not touch wine. He did not cut his hair. He was totally devoted to God. Yet, that personal holiness, all right, listen to this. That personal holiness did not keep him from getting off track or missing God's action in the world. So we see in this that holiness, while it is important, and being devout, it does not equate to always being right or always being in tune with God. In fact, I have known some ascetics, that is, people who practice all kinds of abstinence and piety. They do all kinds of prayers and go to every length to engage in religious action, who are so consumed with their rightness and their holy superiority that they can't even see what God is doing and how God is in action in the midst within the community. And I'll just bring this down to earth, right? In my own religious order, there are people who want things to be a certain way so bad that they are pining over the way it was and have been, and for the time being, because of holding on to the past, they have closed themselves off to the work that God is doing right here and right now through our religious order. And lest I get judgy, okay, because I know I'm standing on a soapbox here, but get used to different, I can look at times in my own life that I have missed the proverbial boat to as well, even during times of intense personal holiness, right? So we all need to stay humble, because just a little bit of religious pride can totally blind us sometimes. And this case, right, in the Old Testament, it was no small matter either, okay? So God wanted Samuel to go anoint the next king. But his trusted prophet, the very holy Samuel, was more concerned and worried about the civic authority in power at the time than with the divine revelation he was receiving from God. So immediately, Samuel starts offering excuses of why he cannot comply with God's call on his life. And this spoke to me. It says in 1 Samuel 16, verses 2 through 3, "But Samuel replied, 'How can I go? Saul will hear of it and kill me.' To this the Lord answered, take a heifer along and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I myself will tell you what to do. You are to anoint for me the one I point out to you. Now, this will preach also, because again, I can think of times in my own life, I knew what God wanted me to do, but I was afraid of what people might think. And that problem plagues me even to this day. I worry about how things will look to certain people, what they will think with the way God's calling me in a situation, and I hesitate and I wait for God to nudge me along. And sometimes it takes me a while to act. I mean, it wasn't easy for me even to walk out into this new ministry out here in Bend. But the thing is this, God's work in us is never done. We're constantly being transformed into a deeper call and a more precise understanding of what God has created us for. And we can't just stop somewhere along the way and think, okay, I've arrived, I have everything, So how about you, right? Can you think of some things or maybe some times in your life that you needed like a sacred nudge in a certain direction? Have you ever felt called to do something by God, but the fear of others' opinions has immobilized you? I think what we learn here is that even the most pious, holy, ascetic people, the most trusted prophets of God, Samuel himself wrestled with this same thing. God literally had to spoon feed Samuel the whole plan, down to the last detail of using a heifer as a diversionary deception to get past the despotism of King Saul. And let's not kid ourselves here, okay? Sometimes we fear others because they are in places of power over our life, because they do have the authority to rain down the bears on us, so to speak, right? And it's in those times when authority is being used unfairly and despotically and tyrannically, and when that authority is being abused, that we see God gets a little sneaky. I mean, Samuel had a legitimate fear, going to crown another king under the present king's nose. That's not child's play. That could get Samuel killed. That's why he was afraid to take that action. All right, but it was what God was calling him to do. And I think we can learn something from this, right? And that's this: even the most devout, pious people need God's guidance, and sometimes they even need a sacred nudge to help them along in what they feel God calling them to do when they're worried about how that's going to be perceived. What about us today? Are we stuck in some kind of rut? Are we so convinced maybe about the past, or we're right about something? Are we so in love with the way things were that we can't let it go and God needs to help us move forward? I think that's my application today, right? It's a prayer, really. Lord, help us see your activity, and when we need it, give us a sacred nudge. Well, my prayer is that if you feel called to do something, but you're worried about how it might look, that the Lord will come alongside and help you in that season. Maybe give you the nudge you need. I know that's what I pray for in my own life as I go through these times myself. Lord, open my eyes further. Help me to see what you're really calling me to. Give me that nudge. Give me that clarity. Give me that courage, and that's where I believe we're going to kind of lead into our most authentic self. So thank you for joining me today as we looked at Samuel and the sacred nudge.